Welcome to Wee Willie Wonderful's Knitted Bunny Tutorial 7. So at the end of the last video we left you completing 10 rows of stocking stitch. So your work should now look like this, and I'm going to actually just show you how to count your rows, because it's easy to sometimes forget to note them down and you think, how many rows have I done? I can't remember. So we're just going to quickly show you how to do that. So we're going to start at the bottom with our first row. This is the cast on line at the bottom. You can see those loose loops, so we don't count that. So we're going to start here with this being the first row. So it's a little looser than the rest, but that's the first one. So we're going to count these. So 1, 2, 3. I've lost track already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 V's on top of each other. We've completed 10 rows. So it does help you to get back on track if you've lost count. So I'll just quickly go through that again. So we're not counting the bottom bit, that's the cast on. We're just starting with that loose row here, which is just the first row we did. So 1, counting those V shapes, see the V there, counting those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've completed 10. So next we're going to cast off. So what we do with this, if it just says cast off, we always presume we're casting off using knitting stitches, which is also called casting off knitwise. So if it doesn't specify, presume it's knit. The other option is if it says to cast off purlwise, you're actually casting off using purl stitches, which is exactly the same, but instead of knitting and then casting off, you're actually just going to purl all the stitches as you're working. But we're going to cast off knitwise for this row. So we're just going to knit 2 stitches as normal. So 1, 2. And now all we're going to do now is put the bottom stitch over the top. Now there's lots of different ways to cast off. If you're making socks or something different, there is such a thing as a stretchy cast off, so it makes it nice and stretchy, but we don't need that for this. We just need a normal cast off. So there's other methods if you're making different things that you might come across, but this is the most commonly used, the most basic, easy way to cast off. So I just repeated that. So now you already have 1 stitch, we knit another stitch, and then always make sure you've got 2, and then pop the bottom one over the top, knit another stitch, pop it over. So we knit 2 to start, so we've got our 2, put the bottom over the top, and then we're just going to knit 1 more stitch, so we've always got 2 on this needle, and then we just pop the bottom one over the top, straightforward. So we'll just do that for the whole row. Try not to pull it really tight, because you might end up with it a little bit gathered across the top, but so just keep your stitches as you would normally. So pop that over. So we're just going to go along the whole row doing the same thing. Easy as that. So it may sound a little bit scary, but you're just knitting and popping that over, and because you're popping it over the other stitch, it's nice and secure, so it can't pull out. So just be careful you don't knock this stitch off. You only want this one over, and just by doing it like that, and make sure that's staying on the needle and you're not accidentally letting it drop off. You can always pick it back up, but you've got to do it very carefully, because you don't want to start pulling it back out again. We will cover what to do if you drop a stitch in later on tutorials, so look out for that if you need to do that. Right, so now we've got 1 left, so we can't do any more, so I'm going to just pull that to make it a little bit bigger. Again, it's like a slip knot, so it alters. So I'm going to make it a touch bigger just to make the next stage easier. Now the pattern states to leave 40 centimetre strand, so we're just going to make sure we leave a nice long strand, and you'll see why later on. So we'll cut that off. And now what we must make sure we do to make sure it's secure, because if now you pull this strand, this will all start pulling back out. So what we have to do, make our loop bigger, put our fingers through, grab the strand, and pull it through the loop. So we're just going to pull the whole thing through and then pull it secure, and that just makes it secure so it now will not pull out. And there we have it. So you can see the nice neat edge. That's our cast off edge. So you can see the difference. That's the cast on edge and that is the cast off edge, and we have a nice little rectangle. If it curls up, what we can do is just get a steam iron and do it over the back and just gently steam it. Don't put your iron on and hold it down because it will go a little bit felted. It won't like it. So just steam it a little bit above it and puff some steam on, and then leave it in a nice rectangle shape until it has cooled down, and that will hold it flatter. But what we're going to do for now is just show you how to complete the bow. So we're going to use the wide-eyed needle that's in your kit if you've purchased a kit. If not, just any wide-eyed needle is fine. Now we're going to thread the short end, so just the one that we left that was shorter. So we're just going to thread that onto the needle, like so. Take a couple of attempts, just squeezing it tightly to get it through. You can just suck the end if you want to give you a little bit more grip on it. There we are. So I've done that. Now this is going to be the front of our bow. So what we're going to do is sew the end into the back. So we're going to turn it over, and we're going to do what's called weaving it in. Now weaving it in is just simply going under those back loops. I'm just going to go toward you, just picking up a few. I wouldn't leave a big long strand between because that would be noticeable. I know it's at the back, but we still like to make sure it's neat. So we're just weaving it, and by weaving, we're not going right the way through. If you look at the other side, you can't see the needle. So we're just catching the loops on the back, so we haven't got a big strand on the front. So I tend to go toward the middle. And then we're going to gently pull that through. Now watch you don't pull this tight. If you pull it tight, it'll start doing that and pucker in, which we don't want. So we want it to be nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is just do another little stitch on the back loop, and then put my needle through that loop. In effect, we're just giving it a little knot like that, just so it doesn't come undone. And then we'll just weave that end in a little bit more, so just catching the back loops, and then trim it short. The reason I've done it toward the middle is because we're going to be wrapping our yarn around the middle, so it will enclose that and keep it safe and secure so it won't come out. So we're just going to throw that little end away, and now we're going to thread the long strand. It does explain this in your pattern, so you can read it as a reminder as well. So now we're going to thread the other end like so, and then we're going to turn it over and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're just going to weave it through again to the back. It doesn't have to be exactly really neat because this is the back of the bow anyway, so it probably won't get seen, but to be fair, I like to do it quite neat. And again, we're just going toward the middle again. You can always turn it over just to double check it's not showing through. Oh, it says showing through a little bit there. I've gone too deep, haven't I? Let's have a look. Let's do it again. So we're just going through those back loops, not the front ones. It's catching whichever, as long as we're heading toward the centre. There you go, that's better. So I'm going to pull it through, and again, oh, it's a bit of a longer strand, so it's a little bit more awkward, so it's like that, and then you won't see it on the other side. So we're back toward the middle. So what I'm going to do now is knot it again. I'm just going to catch another little stitch, and then I'm going to pull that through and then pop my needle through that loop to knot it. That's just to make it secure. And then what we're looking to do is wrap this around the centre to create the bow. So if it's all curling up and you want to steam it, do this before you complete the next section of the bow. So what we're going to do now is pass our yarn around, try and keep it in the middle. You're pulling it tight but not really tight, and you can tweak about with this to get the shape that you want and to check that it's kind of in the middle roughly, move it slightly if it's not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do around 6, but if you want to do more or less, feel free to do that. And then you can slide it around a little bit if it's not in the centre. I'll pull this around a little bit just to get it so it's nice. See, that looks nice and neat to me. So now we're going to turn it over, and all we're going to do is make sure this stays in shape. So we're just going to go under those loops at the back. I'm not going right the way through to the front. Oh, we've got caught. Let's just undo that. And then we're going to do it again. So we're going under there. We're not going right through to the front because we don't want to see this at the front. We're just looping, going under all these loops at the back. And then we're going to pop that through. That just knots it to secure. Keep getting it caught, look, all the time. So I might do that 2 or 3 times. And then through the loop again, just to make sure it's nice and secure. I keep getting it caught, look. There we go. So now it's held in shape quite securely. So we're going to pop that to one side. It's handy to have a little spare bag or a little spare area to put all the pieces in, because you'll end up with quite a few before the end. Now, I'm not going to cut that off. I'm just going to unthread my needle and leave it attached. We always leave strands attached wherever possible because we can just use those to sew it on rather than starting a new one. There we are. So that's our bow complete. And we're just going to put that to one side, and that will be sewn on the bunny when she's finished. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to continue the pattern in the next one, but you've actually learnt now cast on, cast off and knit and purl. So it's quite amazing how much you've learnt so quickly. We'll see you again in the next tutorial.